Hi there! For today's read aloud, we are going to be reading Pete the Cat and His Four Groovy Buttons, written by Eric Litwin, art by James Dean, also the creator of Pete the Cat. So before I begin reading, I would like for you to take a moment and think back to what we talked about today. We talked about rhythm, right? So go ahead and take a moment and think of what is rhythm, because there's rhythm in this story, and that's why I chose it. So go ahead and think. All right, rhythm. Go ahead and say that word, rhythm. The words in a poem or book have a beat when you read them. It's like music, right? All right, so in today's book, you're going to get a chance to either snap along or clap along with the words that I'm reading. So before we get started, we're going to go ahead and make our prediction like we always do. Use the title, Pete the Cat and His Four Groovy Buttons, and use the cover to help you make the best possible prediction that you can. Remember, a prediction is a guess what you think the story is going to be about, or what you think is going to happen in the story. Let's take a moment. All right, if you need more time, just pause the video, but let's get started. Okay. Pete the Cat and His Four Groovy Buttons. Pete the Cat put on his favorite shirt with 4 big, colorful, round, groovy buttons. He loved his buttons so much, he sang his song. Here's the buttons right here. My buttons, my 4 groovy buttons. My buttons, my 4 groovy buttons. Okay, so you're eventually going to catch on to that. Let me show you real quick. Let me explain. Okay, my buttons. Every time we say my buttons, it's one clap or one snap. My buttons. One clap or one snap. So right now, decide, are you going to clap or are you going to snap? Okay, I'm going to snap because I'm trying to move the book around and it's easier to do it with one hand. But clapping works just fine. My 4, so when we say my 4, or we say my 3, or whatever we say, my 2, this is going to be one snap or clap. So my 4, groovy, that's another snap, buttons, 3. So right here, let's go over it again. My buttons, that's going to be one snap. My buttons, that's going to be another snap. My 4, one snap, groovy, second snap, buttons, third snap. So for this line right here, my 4 groovy buttons, you're going to eventually clap 3 times, 1, 2, 3, or you're going to snap 3 times, 1, 2, 3. Let me show you. I'm going to point. My buttons, my 4 groovy buttons, my 4 groovy buttons. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. I know that's a lot going on right there, but you're eventually going to hear it and you're going to catch on. And if you're at school, maybe teachers clap along, snap along. If you're at home, you can always pause the video as many times as you need to get yourself familiarized. Okay? And this is just for fun. It's nothing to be taken, don't worry about it if you're not getting exactly. It's just fun. It's just a fun way to learn about rhythm in a book. Pop! Oh no! One of the buttons popped off and rolled away. How many buttons are left? Show you a shirt. Boom! Popped off. Well, 4 minus 1 equals 3. So we have 3 buttons left. Do you see his groovy jacket with his 3 groovy buttons left? So here is Pete the Cat. He says 3. He's thinking 3. It's like, that's still groovy. Did Pete cry? Goodness, no. Buttons come and buttons go. He kept on singing his song. So I'm going to clap on this one. My buttons, my 3 groovy buttons. My buttons, my 3 groovy buttons. Okay? It's just fun. Don't worry about it if it's a little tricky. Just fun. Pop! Oh no! There goes another button. Another button popped off and rolled away. How many buttons are left? What do you think? Let's find out. Did you say 2? Good job. 3 minus 1 equals 2. Did Pete cry? Goodness, no. Buttons come and buttons go. He kept on singing his song. My buttons, my 2 groovy buttons. My buttons, my 2 groovy buttons. Okay? You are snapping or clapping along with the beat, the rhythm, right? Pop! Oh no! Another button popped off and rolled away. How many buttons are left? What do you think? Well, 2 minus 1 equals 1. Was that what you said? Good job. Did Pete cry? Goodness, no. Buttons come and buttons go. He kept on singing his song. I'm going to clap on this one. My button, my 1 groovy button. My button, my 1 groovy button. Okay? Uh-oh. What's happening here? Just looking at this little squiggly, what do you think happened? Another one popped. Another one popped off. Pop! Oh no! The last button popped off and rolled away. How many buttons are left? Well, 1 minus 1 equals 0. So, what do you think? 0 buttons. Did Pete cry? Goodness, no. Because we know buttons come and buttons go. Pete looked down at his buttonless shirt, and what do you think he saw? Give you a moment. What do you think he saw? Go ahead and make a prediction in your head. All right. His belly button. And he kept on singing his song. See his little belly button? And he's thinking, it's all good. It's all right. Still got a button. I'm going to clap on this one. Ready? My button. Still have my belly button. My button. Still have my belly button. That's a little different. We clapped a little bit. One more on this one. I guess it simply goes to show that stuff will come and stuff will go. But do we cry? Goodness, no. We keep on singing. Because buttons come and buttons go. Yay. Okay, I hope you like this story. I think it's such a fun story. I love all the Pete the Cat books. All right, I'm going to pause the video, and I want you to think about the different rhythm you heard in Pete the Cat, okay? Think of the example that we did together. All right, did you think back to Pete the Cat and his 4 groove buttons? What were we doing together? What was the rhythm that we heard in the story? Let's think. Was it the song that was set that we kept singing together? Singing, clapping to? My buttons, my 3 groovy buttons. My buttons, my 3 groovy buttons, right? We did that together. That was an example of rhythm. We were snapping, some of you were clapping along with the beat, right? So remember, rhythm. The words in a book or poem have a beat when you read them, like music. So we were clapping along, snapping along to the rhythm in Pete the Cat's song, right? All right, so I really hope you enjoyed Pete the Cat and his 4 groovy buttons. He has another couple of books where it has some rhythm, examples of rhythm in there. So if you want to keep exploring rhythm, if you're at home or at school, maybe you can check out some of his other books. The other book I'm talking about is Pete the Cat, I Love My White Shoes. So that book is really similar to this, where it keeps changing, because remember it went from 4 buttons, 3 buttons, 2 buttons, 1 button, and then his belly button. In that book, it also changes. So there's an example of rhythm in there. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed today's read aloud, and have a good rest of your reading lesson.